Here's some nice colors. So
this is all your sheep.
Yep. So this
Wow.
is essentially my paint, and this is my. No, I'm not gonna put blue. I'm gonna put white. And this is my paintbrush. So it's a simple. Well, let's get rid of this. These. So it's a process of shrinking wool. So have you ever shrunk your favorite sweater in the washing machine? Mm-hmm. So that's how the background's made. So that's using water and soap. It opens up the fiber of wool. And when it has any agitation to it, so in the washing machine, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's how I make this. I actually comb the wool in two different directions, similar to if it was knitted. And then I take boiling hot water and soap, and I rub the dickens out of it, and I make backgrounds. So that's how this little piece got made, and there's a few pieces around. And then from that, I take it and I get inspired to see what it will become. So this one started with, there's a bit of white there and green. That was it. That's all I had left. And so I thought, okay, well, why don't I try and make this into the, when you're looking through the trees, you see that the sun comes through, but you see all the trees in the background and stuff. So what I'm trying to do now is create the airiness between the trees, sort of backwards, if you will. But the key is to make your background well, and then anything you pop on the front of it then pops. And it becomes really quite dramatic. So this is just, so what this is doing is essentially shrinking the wool as well, but this is barbed like a fish hook. So these needles are barbed. And have you ever thought that wool felt itchy, scratchy? Yeah. Everybody kind of tends to feel that way a little bit about wool. And it's that wool is barbed. So when you add the barbs here, and it's that grabs, again, it grabs hold and it shrinks and gets it tighter and tighter and tighter. So it's not actually going in deep into that, it's actually going into itself. So you don't need the background, but I like the background to give me a form of reference.
So the sharper your tool, the better the savings are.
Yeah.
So with wood turning, you're either cutting and creating that, or you're scraping and making sawdust. Sure. And if you're scraping, then you're spending twice as much time sanding. Today is going fabulously. It's so nice to have so many people coming in to our studio. Wood turning tends to be a very solitary profession. I'm out here most of the time by myself, working alone, so it's wonderful for people to come in and be able to show them how I do what I do and how raw burls end up being pieces like this beautiful one here. So it's great to be part of this tour. A burl, usually most of my pieces take about a week start to finish. The first day, of course, is spent on the lathe turning the piece, but it takes about a week to apply all the coats and finish that you use to end up with a nice, shiny, food-safe surface like you see here.
All right, well, the medium that I use is egg tempera, which means I use an egg yolk mixed with an equal amount of water as my painting medium. And to that, I add pure pigment. So I have various dried pigments and pigment in a dispersion that I get from a Canadian company. and they're just pure pigment. So every day I make my paint fresh every morning, and I'm making it all day because it dries very quickly. So I do it in batches as I go along. Egg tempera is always painted on a board, so you see that this is on board, and that board is first prepared with a gesso that I make myself, and it is brown marble mixed with gelatin that I heat, and I put it on the board when it's hot, and that about 4 or 5 coats of that. Then I take a commercial product, which is a Venetian plaster, and it is also made with the marble dust, but it has a thicker consistency, and with that I put a relief, a plaster relief. So when I put that on, I use spatulas, different utensils, things, fingers, whatever, and I work from photographs. And so as a oil painter would use a palette knife, is sort of how I put on that plaster. So when that is dry, then I take water-based ink and I ink the whole board so that it's then all black. So it's sort of all white, then it's all black. Then I take a damp cloth and I start to remove that water-based ink so that I end up with a value drawing. And I have a photograph for reference, but the plaster itself adds a lot to it. So once I have that all worked out, then I can start painting. And egg tempera medium is very thin, so it goes on in, and it dries very quickly. So the paint goes on in layers, and they're translucent layers, so your undercolors always show through. So to build up a depth of color takes quite a few glazes of the paint. So it's not a fast way of painting, but it has its stages and a process. But it has a particular look, egg tempera, that is different, I think, from other mediums, and it's easy to work with. It's easy clean up. It's just water, clean up.
Where do you live?
But yet that paint dries like an oil paint because there's natural oil in the egg yolk that makes it thin like an oil painting.
So welcome to my studio. This is where I'm making, I'm working on a study right now of a tapestry that I'm going to be working on. And the study is of a canoe that's sinking underwater. And so I want to make sure that I work out the details before I begin the large tapestry. So what I'm doing is feeding the yarn through the space in the warp here with my fingers, and packing it into place and covering the warp threads, like so. And the warp is a white linen that's stretched tight on the loom, and the weft is a yarn that I've dyed that's a rayon fiber that has a bit of a shimmer to it, so it will look like water when the piece is hanging. It's a process of building up centimeter by centimeter. And I spend hours a day working on my pieces. The large tapestries can take up to 5 months to complete. And so if I'm going to work on a piece for 5 months, the study is really important so that I've worked out all the details.
Do you work from an idea in your head or from a photograph?
I generally work from a photograph for most of my tapestries, but this tapestry here came to me as a full-fledged vision of a finished piece, and so that's why it's hard to find images of canoes underwater. So this summer we sunk a few canoes and took pictures, but I still have the image in my head, and so that's why I'm doing this study, so that I can work out those details before I begin the final piece. And so at the moment I've just started weaving this piece, and so this is the hem here, and this is the woven structure.
Nice to see you. You too.
love this. The peony? Okay, where's my